Thank you for being here. As you can see from the posted agenda, we're going to spend our time mostly on internal updates, but we do want to kick off with information from Michelle Powell. As you may recall, in August, I think it was, Jill Stillman was here a few months ago telling us about the Erlanger Institute for Healthcare and Innovation. Some of us had a chance to meet Michelle at that time. She works as the Health Innovation Coordinator, and she'll be sharing info today on the Institute's job shadowing program. So Michelle, welcome back.
Good afternoon. I just wanted to kind of touch base with you guys about job shadowing. We've had some streamlining of our processes and a change of hands in who kind of coordinates job shadowing for Erlanger. In the past, Nancy Stevens had done it for several years, and Nancy is so busy, she just cannot handle everything. So they were nice enough to finally say, Nancy, we're going to give you a break. And they gave me the coordinating role for job shadowing, which I'm really excited about. So I, along with Jill Stillman, have kind of come up with some streamlining of this process because I think it can be really confusing and hard to figure out what direction to send students or people who might contact your departments about what the process is. So I'm here today to kind of show you exactly what they need to do, and I'm hoping that it will help you guys out and me as well. So if someone comes directly to you about job shadowing, the easiest thing to do is say, go to www.erlanger.org and scroll down all the way to the bottom of the page. And on the right-hand side here under Quick Links, there is a quick link that says Job Shadowing. So when they click on that, it's going to kind of give them everything they need to know. It tells them how old they have to be. Some of the areas in the hospital require you to be 18. Those are the emergency department, the operating room, and surgical services. And then for pediatrics or children's hospital, the rule is 18 and they cannot be in high school at all. They have to have graduated. So they have a little bit of different guidelines for children's. We have a lot of requests for physician shadowing, and that is a completely separate entity. That falls under UT College of Medicine. And I've already put a link there, so all they have to do is say, oh yeah, I'm following a doctor. And they can click on that link, and the Future Docs program, which that falls under, and all of their information how to apply for that is there on that link. So just to kind of go over what is the process for job shadowing. What my role is that I accept the application. I make sure that they give me appropriate documentation, all of their vaccinations, their TB skin test. Also, if it's October through March, they have to have a flu shot as well. And then once they return all that to me, I send them an email with their confidentiality, their privacy, and their HIPAA training. And they sign off on that. And in between that round of paperwork, on their application, they kind of specify what department or clinician experience they want to have, whether it's physical therapy, occupational therapy, RN, if it's pediatric oncology. They'll tell me that. A lot of times they already have a contact person that they've already met and kind of is helping them, but sometimes they don't know what direction to take. And that's when I might contact your department in general. Some of this I've been here 6 years, so I know a lot of the managers of the departments, but I'm finding that some departments have specific people who kind of handle this stuff for that department. And I'm finding that out a little bit at a time. So what I'd like to ask you guys to do is to find out, is there a specific person in your department besides your department manager that might be handling these students when they have job shadowing requests? And if you find out that does exist, if you guys could kind of pop me an email at michelle.powell@erlanger.org, and kind of let me know who that contact person is. That way I don't have to bother the wrong person. They only get 20 hours of shadowing a year. So if they want to shadow a nurse for 8 hours and a physical therapist for 8 hours and a respiratory therapist for whatever the remainder of that is, 4 hours, they can do that. But the max is 20 hours a year. And their badge is temporary and it does expire. It has an expiration date on it, the last date that they give for shadowing. So once I give them that contact person, it's really up to the shadower and the department to decide if you can help them. We really encourage you to help if you can. It's a service that we're kind of providing for the community because we are a teaching hospital. But also what days and times you have staffing to help. And once you give them that, they contact me and say, this is the dates I'll be there, and I have their badge made. All applicants, I just kind of have a general email on here. It says jobshadowing@erlanger.org. And that's just so I can keep all the applications in one folder. So if you could refer them to that email that's on there. And the application's right here. And it's a real simple application. Most of the paperwork is just the HIPAA and such. If it will open. There it is. So, just real simple. Does anybody have any questions about job shadowing? Okay. No, that is good question. That's the volunteer program, and that falls under volunteer services. So that's kind of a separate entity. Because shadowing is just that, shadowing. There's no hands-on experience at all. It's just simply following you around to see what you do all day. Volunteers, they're like pushing people in wheelchairs. They're answering phone calls. They might get ice. They're a little bit more hands-on. So their training is a little bit different. And they've already been going through the volunteer services for several years now and doing that. So that's kind of their game. And if I'm not mistaken, down here under volunteering is all the information for that program. Let's see here. Yeah, all the information about the volunteer program is under that volunteer quick link. So that is it for me. If nobody has any questions, I appreciate your time, and I hope this helps everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. And Michelle, before you go, just want to confirm, so you're going to be back next month, is that right, to discuss the mentoring program? Am I correct? Okay. So we'll have a chance to hear more on that. What's that?
I said, bring your friends.
Okay.
I'm ready for me to beg on my hands and knees for help.
Okay. All right, thank you again. All right, so stay tuned for more on that. Let me get us set up here. Okay. So in terms of our time for the remainder of today, I did want to provide a few updates there regarding the children's hospital tour meal ticket request form. There were some questions coming out about that since we have changed our process there. And then also we, of course, completed that survey starting in August, finishing up last month. And we wanted to take a little time to review the results of that. And we'll round out with some information from Amanda on team engagement strategies. So to begin, we have finally gotten those dates set in for the tour of the new facility. So write those down if you're interested. We're going to set this up on the EOL site, and I'll send out an email when this goes live. We tried to find 3 different days, 3 different times to kind of accommodate the different schedules. I know not all of you will still be able to make those. Unfortunately, we are limited to 20 people per tour. But the good news is that, I don't know if you guys recall when Mary Rustick was here from the foundations recently, if you go on this tour, for instance, and if this is something you'd like to go back to your department and arrange another tour to get your team out, you can contact Mary Rustick there at the foundations or McCarthy directly. McCarthy's that construction company there. And they can maybe fit you in for a tour of your department if you want to do that. Or if you can't make one of these particular tours, maybe try to get on with some of the other ones. You will have to be aware that, of course, it's a construction area. They are kind of finishing up things there, but you'll probably have to wear the safety vest, hard hat, glasses, all of that. There's some uneven ground and things like that, maybe some obstacles to negotiate. But the OD team had a chance to visit, was it 2 months ago? Yeah, and it's an amazing building. It's going to be an incredible asset for Erlanger, and more importantly, a great resource to provide healthcare to kids in the region. So definitely, if you have the chance, sign up for that. It is first come, first serve. As I said, there's only those 3 tours with 20 slots. But please take a look and join us for those dates. Are there any questions about the tour? Okay. And on the topic of the meal ticket request process, because I know there's some questions that came out about that recently. I sent out an email last week just kind of reminding folks with the relocation of HR and OD to the new facility on Riverside Drive. We're now doing a catered lunch situation over there, and it's a bit of a burden for folks to have to trek back and forth for you guys to come over there. And there's not actually space to host a lunch composed of both new hires and managers and SEALs. So, however, in your survey results, a lot of you spoke out about the desire to keep some semblance of that program. And so what we've done is created this voucher request system where basically you can just send in, fill out the form if you want to make those arrangements to have that one-on-one time with your new hires in your department. We encourage you to do that. We do consider this part of the onboarding process a crucial one. It does make a great difference. The form itself is just simply an online form. Fill that out, click submit, and what you'll get is a confirmation receipt via email. You'll just print that out. It does require a manager's signature because this is not something we're controlling, and this is essentially money to the bistro and to Starbucks there. We do want to make sure we kind of account for that and have an authorization process to it. If you're a manager yourself, which some managers will, and they can just sign for their own. But it's going to be the same as it was before. You know, we limit it to 5 meal tickets per SEAL or manager. So keep that in mind. We don't typically have departments hiring more than 5 people during 1 week. But simply fill that out, click submit. You'll get that printed out, and then make those arrangements with your new hire and your department to meet up with them. So it's pretty simple and to the point. Are there questions about this? Yes.
As far as for the other campuses, will we be able to get meal tickets for our cafeterias?
We're investigating that. The short answer to that is at the time, no. Unfortunately, this does only apply to Baroness and Sodexo here. We recognize that that is something that would be of great benefit to you guys. So we're exploring how we can get that pushed through the right channels so that can happen. So definitely maybe reach out to me for an update on that. But yeah, that would definitely be handy because I know a lot of folks, if you're on one of the satellite campuses, you may have no need at all to ever come down here. And so you want to orient your new hires where you're going to work. So.
Where do we find this form?
So good question. It will be sent out each week with the new hire roster. So we've sent out those communications. Typically, we were sending a calendar invite. Of course, there's no invitation to the lunch now, but we'll just send out that new hire roster. If you have someone in your department, you can just click the link in that communication and access that. It'll be housed simply on the OD's WordPress site, and that link will be in the communication. Other questions? Okay. Well, then let's then take an opportunity to dive into some of the survey results. First and foremost, thank you for your feedback. Out of 184 SEALs, we had 126 responses, so that's almost 70%, so that's really good. We're glad to see that kind of response and glad to see some of the results that were in there in terms of ideas for improvement. This is just kind of revisiting those objectives. We wanted to measure our impact thus far, gauge satisfaction with the SEAL program, explore those areas, those opportunities for improving the program, and then identify some best practices that you guys were putting into effect in your particular areas. So just to kind of go through those particular objectives there, and these are a little bit out of order. I don't know if you remember the order in which these questions were, but I'm kind of organizing them according to what they were measuring. And question number 8, my work as a SEAL positively impacts customer patient satisfaction. I wanted to throw these up there, not necessarily commentary for all of these, but just so you could see. This is kind of what we were expecting in some ways. All of this was skewed toward the direction we'd want it to be. Most folks tended to agree or strongly agree with these things. But for us, we did see that, look, if we have any disagrees, we need to address those. If we have any sort of neutrality about this, indifference, that's still an opportunity for us to improve the program. So I'll just kind of flip through some of these. This is how it impacts customer patient satisfaction. And again, this was your take on that. Your impact on team engagement, kind of that same curve there. In terms of satisfaction, so how you folks are feeling about the program itself. Again, we're happy to see that the majority of you lie where you do in the agree and strongly agree, but we definitely want to address that indifference or those that are in that negative range there. And I do want to kind of hear from you folks as we go through this at any point. If you have any questions or any insights, please feel free to share. In terms of the meaning you find in this work, and feeling informed about various things that we have going on here. So we were happy to see this, and of course there's always room for improvement there. And then I kind of put these under the idea of opportunities for us. There are opportunities everywhere. You can tell I taught middle school, by the way. Opportunities for improvement. So. But we actually anecdotally had a few folks approach us saying, my manager doesn't really understand what I'm doing with this program. It might be a new manager or someone that just maybe wasn't as in the loop. We definitely want to address this. To include sending out a communication soon, maybe even a survey to managers themselves about ways that we can incorporate SEALs more into your various teams and departments. So just the fact that we had a few folks mentioning that they didn't seem to have that support raised flags for us. So we wanted to address that for sure. I feel like this is very department dependent, right? So some of your teams may not meet as regularly. Some of your teams may be smaller, and there's really not as much of a need for this. But if we can increase those team engagements, those small setting huddles, those kind of micro opportunities to sort of meet and communicate and engage folks, we definitely want to explore areas to do that. And Amanda will be talking to some extent about ways to promote engagement in your area. Toward the end. And then this one as well. Again, this is a good results curve here, but we feel that there's some refining to be done. So I think we can bring more clarity around your role as a SEAL here. We've talked about it before. This is part 2 of SEALs, and we want it to continue to grow and be the best that it can be. So I think that includes giving you guys more clarity around how you can operate as a SEAL in your particular area. Are there questions on any of those? Did anything stand out? Let me see a show of hands if you thought that's about what you would expect with those results. Okay. What if you're completely shocked by those numbers? No one? Okay. Okay, on that idea of best practices, I'll introduce Amanda, who I think most of you met last month, but I know our groups change. Amanda Johnson-Prano joined the OD team as a specialist in August, and would like to highlight some of the things that came out in the survey. Some of those open-ended questions you may recall, we were just kind of asking, like, what are you doing in your departments? So we kind of went through that, compiled all those things that really stood out, and wanted to share back with you. So first of all, can everybody hear me?
hear me just fine? Everybody hear me just fine now? Okay. Thank you. So it's nice to see all of you again. I hope to get up in front of you more, and I hope you can actually see me. I'm rather short. I want to first start by saying we wholeheartedly thank you for doing the survey and giving us this feedback. Our intention is to take that feedback seriously and to do something with it. And so, of course, Patrick has started that today by sharing it with you. We want there to be transparency. And so what we want to do is, over time, we want to move further in the direction of giving you tools to enhance what you're doing and the work of those that you're supporting as well on your teams, all in the benefit of customer and patient satisfaction and all the other things that can come out of the SEALS program. So all of you should have in front of you this document here that's displayed on the screen as well. If you didn't get one, just raise your hand and Patrick or Taylor can bring one to you. Just keep those hands raised until they bring it by. So as we were really combing through the feedback information, what we discovered was, and there was a lot of it, a lot of, text-based responses. So you really took the time to, type out what you were really thinking and the things that you're doing currently. Lots of really great passion in this room, lots of really great creativity. I was so excited to see it. It was actually really entertaining to go through it and really inspiring. What we noticed, though, is that there's a lot of kind of categories here. So that's how we decided to group everything together. The purpose of this document is to share the wealth in this room. Some of you are doing some things that other people aren't doing, and so, in learning and development or organizational development, one of the things that we've learned over all the years of doing what we do is people really learn so much from each other. And so we really want to kind of capitalize on that by sharing this with every single one of you. So what we suggest is that you actually take this back, read through it, consider it and how it would maybe work in your team dynamic, maybe try a couple things you haven't done before, and even go a little bit deeper, maybe even, reach out to somebody else in the room here that maybe you haven't met with before. Maybe go get some coffee together and find out how somebody's implementing one of these practices, on their team, in their department, and kind of how that looks. So again, we really learn well from each other. So you'll see here, interact and inspire. That was one kind of common category of different ways that people are engaging with the team. Then there's prepare and promote, create and share, and celebrate. You're all doing a really great job celebrating milestones, and so I think that's really, really fun. We're not all just here working. We have families, and we want to celebrate all those things going on in life. That's a big part of, what we need to make sure that we're thinking about with people. One of the things I want to point out, though, is actually in the, the create and share category. You'll notice there is mention of visual management boards, and also, I believe, up in the interact and inspire huddles. So raise your hand if you've already attended the Lean 101 course. Okay, there's a good handful in here. So if you have not yet signed up for one of those face-to-face classes and attended that with the Operational Excellence team, I recommend that you do so. And I've got a note here at the bottom in the gray box for kind of how you can get enrolled in that or who you might reach out to if you have more questions. I actually attended it myself, and it's a really good compact view of a lot of information in process improvement and kind of how to engage people better. And they focus on those huddles and those visual management boards. So if you're not already doing that in your team and you're thinking you'd like to implement that, definitely sign up for one of those classes and learn more about how to do that effectively. And they'll also be happy to consult with you to kind of help you get down the path of really getting that set up and going for your team. What questions do you have for me right now about anything on here or anything that's not on here? Or feedback even? Does anybody feel like this is going to be useful, that there's things on here maybe that you hadn't thought of before? Show of hands. Yeah? Okay. I think that really covers about everything that we wanted to talk about today. If you wanted to kind of better understand what some of these suggestions really mean, feel free to reach out to myself. I've got a really long email address, so Amanda Johnson Prano. So if you see me in the address book, it's under Johnson Prano. It's hyphenated. Otherwise, you can reach out to Patrick, and he can get you in touch with me. Together and with Taylor, we can make sure that you understand more about some of these ideas and maybe how you can get them implemented with your teams. So thank you all so much, and look forward to working with all of you more in the future.
Thank you, Amanda. To kind of round out the survey results, we were going to send that out, kind of what we presented here in PDF form, so that you guys had access to that and kind of review that more closely. If you do have any questions that are sparked as you read through that, feel free to reach out to either of us on the support team. We're happy to do that, to respond to those and address any kind of issues you may have. In terms of our next steps, we do, on the support team, we do want to kind of go through those areas that we kind of identified opportunities for improvement and come up with plans to maybe pitch to you folks in the coming months to address some of those areas of concern. Hopefully, with the new process for requesting those meal tickets, I know initially there was kind of a heartbreak with the idea of losing that part of the onboarding process, that we can kind of continue that going. If you have any issues, maybe getting those arrangements made with new hires in your department or anything like that, feel free to reach out to us. On the note of transparency that Amanda was discussing earlier, I do want to mention that the tickets are going to be only for the new hires, unfortunately. So to be fully transparent, that fund, the funds that were allocated for the new hire orientation seal lunch were set up for the fiscal year. Now that we're catering at the new location, some of the funds have to shift to that. So now we're basically reducing the cost of the meal ticket, or the price of the meal ticket, to $5. So we're paying a lot extra for catering to get those folks fed at the new facility. Just because of the price of catering, it's obviously much cheaper than walking across the street to the bistro. So as a result of that, we had to reduce the cost of that. But it was kind of a fight that we put up to make sure that that still happened, so that you had something in some way to incentivize for you guys to get together with your new hires one-to-one. Are there any questions on any of that? Any other topics we discussed? We thought it'd be good to give some of your time back to you today. If you do have questions, feel free to linger in the back, or if you have any comments, you can drop those in the box. Otherwise, you can always reach out to us at our email addresses. So thank you so much. A big round of applause for yourselves before you leave. Woo! Thank you again, guys.